I was gonna wait until some actual news about the silver chair came out, but then I thought, why? I mean, honestly, I think any Narnia fan that really knows the books and has followed the first three films can probably already start to anticipate certain issues, or at least certain things we're going to be talking about with the silver chair. There's always, for example, there's always the issue of adding action sequences or adding romance. Of course, is another potential issue. It's always one of the things we're struggling with. So I think at this point, I don't necessarily have to wait for news about the film to come out to react to it in a way. I think we can already at least anticipate some of the issues they're going to have in adapting the silver chair. And of course, that's true just about any book. You can usually read it and say, what are they going to do about that? So I'm just going to start doing that. I don't see any point in waiting. I'm going to start speculating about some things that I think are going to be issues before they even actually become issues. I've probably read the announcement about the silver chair being in development as a movie on at least a couple dozen different websites just to see how they frame it, what their reaction is. And one of the things that jumped out at me that I saw on a few different ones is, of course, there's a fair amount of emphasis on the character of Eustace. And a number of websites kind of frame it as, yeah, the first three films kind of focus on the Pevensies, and then we get to Silver Chair, and it's all about Eustace. And that's really not true. Like the way they say it, anyone who hasn't read the book, who read it, would really get the wrong impression, as if Eustace takes over the series, and he doesn't. In fact, the thing I really want to focus on in this video is that Eustace is not the main character of the Silver Chair at all. I think it's quite clearly Jill. By the way, most Narnia fans, I think at this point, have kind of written off Will Poulter completely and said, yeah, he's too old, he can't be Eustace. Whether you liked him or not, he's just too old to play Eustace. I'm not so sure that they aren't going to bring him back. I do think he's too old to play Eustace, and so I would tend to say, yeah, I hope they don't bring him back. But I'm just saying, I don't think he'll come back. But if he did, if they brought Will Poulter back to play Eustace again, I would be surprised but not shocked. I think there's I'll say that I think there's at least a small chance this will happen. But anyway, the Silver Chair is actually not about Eustace. I think the main character quite clearly is Jill. And one of the reasons I think this is significant is that I've always viewed the Chronicles of Narnia as being in kind of two parts. There's the first three books, which is Wardrobe, Caspian, and Dawn Treader. Then there's the last four, Silver Chair, Horses, Boy Magician's Nephew, Last Battle. And one of the defining characteristics of these two parts of the series is that the first three books don't have a single clearly defined main character. It's an ensemble group, and you can make an argument that maybe one is focused on a little bit more than the others, but it's not clear cut. And then you get to the Silver Chair, and after that, I think it's pretty clear cut that you have Jill, Shasta, Diggory, and Tyrion are pretty clearly the main characters in those books. But in a nutshell, what's the story of the Silver Chair? The way I view it, please post a comment or a video, by the way. Post a response if you disagree with me. But what is the Silver Chair about in a nutshell? It's about Jill Pole, this damaged girl, and her journey learning to trust again. This is something I'll be talking about over and over. Just like with Dawn Treader, I said over and over, it's about Reepicheep's, the longing for his true home and the joy of finding it. I said that so many times, and this is the thing you'll be hearing me say a lot. If the Silver Chair really does happen, if they really make this movie and I do videos about it, this will come up again and again. It's about Jill Pole learning to trust. Everything we hear about this girl suggests to us that she has nowhere to turn. Of the seven friends of Narnia, she's the only one whose parents are never mentioned, which is, Narnia buddy of mine pointed that out. And, I just think that's an interesting observation. I don't know if that was intentional. It's just an interesting observation regardless. Certainly, she can't trust anybody at school. You get the sense that, she's always bullied and doesn't really seem to have any meaningful friendships. And even her teachers and leaders at school are corrupt and are sort of encouraging these bullies. And so she has really nowhere to turn. So it's really not surprising when this mysterious and intimidating lion gives her this task and these vague, weird signs to follow that sound very strange and says, go risk your life and find Prince Rilian. It's not surprising that she has a difficult time trusting that because she doesn't have anyone else in her life that she can trust. So I think, in a way, she's lost the ability to trust. And maybe this is just because this is something that I relate to. This is something that's very personal for me because I've had people hurt me, and because of that, I have had difficulty trusting people in general because I get afraid of getting hurt. And that's not how you should go through life. You can't be in constant fear of being hurt, and so you don't want to form any relationships because there's always the risk that they're going to let you down. People will let you down. You will get hurt sometimes. That's just the reality of it, but you can't let that keep you from having relationships. And I think Jill, over the course of this story, she really struggles with that. And I think if she had more people in her life who she could trust, it wouldn't be so. She'd be much less likely to just be focusing on hot baths at Harfang and all these distractions if she really was able to trust Aslan. So this is her journey learning to trust again. I think by the end of the story, primarily through Puddleglum's example, she, by the end of the story, has the ability to trust again. I think that's the central emotional core of the Silver Chair. That's that's what it's all really about. So that would be my first sort of request to the filmmakers, a little piece of advice, a completely unasked for advice to the filmmakers about this film, is that I really think if it's going to work, it needs to be about Jill Pole. And I think it's possible that we won't see them go that direction. I think it's possible that they will want to, they may even want to just go ahead and make Eustace the main character, since he's a character we're familiar with. But I think if this is going to work, it really has to be about Jill. I also believe that the film is not 100% greenlit. It's probably only about 90% greenlit, maybe not even that. I really think the announcement, I think it's very possible that they just put that announcement out there to kind of gauge interest and see how much interest is there in another Narnia movie. And indeed, a lot of the reports I read, some of them were excited about it, some of them were just sort of surprised, and some were going, what? Really? They're making a fourth one? So, in one way or another, whether it's a YouTube comment or a video channel, whatever, let the filmmaker, the internet is a cool thing. Let the filmmakers know that there are people who are interested in this film, but are interested in it not just because they want it to be entertaining, but because it really means something to them. I think it's important that the filmmakers be aware of that. So that's my first video, very, very likely not the last, just analyzing The Silver Chair as a film, even though hasn't really been any news released about it yet.